Welcome back. Today we are going to move on to the UEV tier. After making the intro quest, we have to decide on which branch we want to make our first progress. And getting the last circuit assembler out of the way didn't unlock any further path. That's because to make use of it, we also need the motors of the new tier, but those require a material that isn't found in our galaxy. To adventure that far, we are going to need a mothership. However, to build one we have to first make a shuttle, which is crafted with something called redox polymer, which is an endgame plastic which requires us to build the last chemical chain of this series. However, the starting point is something called xenoxene, which is produced by the most delicate bacteria there is, Xenoxene xenosis. However, this is not even a bacteria we can find in nature. We have to do a lot of weird DNA messing around in our biolab to obtain that species. It all starts from taking some excrement bacteria out of a rotten spider eye. Once we isolated it, we take it into a vat, where we will be making lots of biohazardous fluid. By working that stuff, we can extract all sorts of useful ingredients that we are going to need soon. Then we start working on the basic bacteria for xenoxene, Barnardaphis arboreatris, which can be picked out of some banana logs. The next step is to try to extract its DNA. And this is a low success chance. Only 1 out of 20 samples succeeded. Now we want to analyze this sample and save it on a data orb. However, the process is delicate and it often fails at saving the correct data. So, after stocking up a lot of stuff to do more tries, we managed to get a bunch of DNA samples to try again. This time, luckily, we got the data analyzed correctly at the first try. Now we use that and the data from another bacteria to create the plasmid for the new bacteria we want to create. Once we get it, we use it to mutate the Tesseracts bacteria into Xenoxene xenosis, which we shall take to a new set of vats, where we will finally be preparing xenoxene, the basis for redox production. Once we have that, it's just a matter of a processing chain of less than a dozen machines to get the redox polymer. With that, we can now craft the lightweight plates required for the shuttle. Meanwhile, we also make its schematic and the parts for our upcoming mothership. Once everything is ready, we build our new spaceship. However, for now, more than a spaceship it is a satellite, since it has no engines. So we quickly order a thruster for our ship. Once the new engine is in place and filled with Naquada fuel, we can move our ship. But it appears that this engine is not strong enough to move us to a new galaxy. We could increase its size or add a second one, but we are instead going to upgrade to an ion thruster which can reach 10 times higher speeds. With the new engine equipped, we can now move our mothership to the Ra solar system. And, thanks to the ion thrusters, this will only take 13 minutes. Once we reach destination, we quickly move to the main belt, which was the actual destination that made us build the whole mothership. This is not a planet but a belt of asteroids orbiting the Ra star. Our mothership is too big and can't risk getting damaged by the asteroids, so we get closer by using the shuttle. And then we start wandering around, until we find what we came here for, tengam. Once we found an asteroid made out of the ore, we have to face some guards, and then the mining operation can start. We are going to hide from the swarms of robots inside the asteroid, where we will be setting up a void miner. And this miner is going to mine the void. Literally. Once we get back, after extracting the raw tengam from its ore, we proceed into refining it with an electromagnetic separator. And the first usage we have for the new material is an electromagnet to speed up its refinement process. And then we can finally craft the new motors. The first UEV thing we want to make is a space pump. However, that highlighted a bottleneck. We are too slow at compressing infinity. Luckily, there is now an upgrade to the neutronium compressor. However, to craft it, we need super dense plates, which must be made with a hot isostatic pressurization unit, which is a machine which has to be toggled on and off to avoid overheating. So here we have it built, with a sensor that will stop it when it heats too much. So we better use this only when required to avoid extra clogging. And thus we have our new neutronium compressor, which is going to be way faster at compressing infinity catalyst. And thus we can have our new space pumping station. The first gas we will want to pump is hydrogen. However, that tank could be small, so we go back to our compressor to craft something that can carry more fluid, a digital singularity cell. That thing will allow us to store all the hydrogen we could possibly need. We already passed the tank by 100 times, but the cell is still almost empty. Moving on, to get the new circuits, after photonically enriching an americium-doped wafer, we find out we need some more purified water to cut it. So we go back to our water line and add more steps after the extreme temperature fluctuation plant. Namely, the high-energy laser purification unit, which will pass the water under lasers of all the colors to make sure it hits any possible thing that could have survived the 10,000 Kelvin temperature. And then the residual decontaminant degasser purification unit, which has some complex logic and will require us to decode its signals and act accordingly. And since we are not experienced enough with redstone, we just brute force it with Steve's factory manager. And with this purified water, we can now cut our optically perfected wafers. Next, we add some nanites to our wafers with the help of a strong laser and some plasma. And we smash everything with some extra purified water in our sledgehammer to expose some circuit material. We bring that materials to our space elevator, where, with the help of some space assemblers, we upload the raw materials above the clouds for some operations that require a zero-gravity ambient. Then we download the so-assembled RAM. Next we start preparing a new factory area for the stuff we will build with all that space RAM. Then, we make one floor for the basic optical processor, one for the optical assembly, one for the computer, and finally, one for the mainframe. Now that we have this new circuit, we shall put it to good use. And the first machine we can build with our new circuits is the dimensionally transcendent plasma forge. That machine is going to require a lot of materials, not to mention the amount of blocks for the structure. We will probably want to make it out of the new infinity coils, which, other than infinity, will now also require circuits. And it is now time to put our A2 system to test again. Crafting just the controller is going to take some time, so, in the meanwhile, we can prepare the other stuff that is going to be needed. The plasma forge uses as fuel dimensionally transcendent catalysts, which are made by mixing together many different plasmas. Since we do not have a plasma mixer, we shall make those as a multi-step process with our normal industrial mixers. And that is going to be a really slow and power-intensive process, even with our 12-socketed machines. And, after mixing the raw plasmas, we give a finishing touch with our new laser. Going back to our DTPF crafting, after taking note of one of the weirdest bottlenecks, we notice that our 6 general-purpose assembly line aren't enough. So we added some more. And we needed a second data bank to share all of the data sticks from the old one. And all of those rainbow spaghetti reminded us that we must also add one more colored laser to our battery to bring power to the location where we are going to build the new machine. Which, in the meantime, we have completed in all of its majesty. This block is going to greatly reduce the amount of resources we need to process some of the endgame materials, or drastically cut the crafting time of working others. But what we want right now is completely new and weird stuff, such as tesseracts. However, before getting into crafting those, there is some stuff we have to worry about. The main cost of running this structure is in the catalysts used as fuel. We can cut the cost by half by never letting this machine shout down. So, once we start it, we will have a system to keep it running on slower stuff perpetually. To do so, we simply start throwing in stuff to work whenever the crafting input bus for on-demand craftings empties. And, as you can see, we are slowly building up a discount in fuel usage. But we can do better. The thing we are passively doing while no crafts are queued is hypogen. Hypogen is a really useful material which, for example, can cut the recursion of crafting batteries, or help us make better fuels for our generators. But the main issue is that, to make hypogen, we are using hypogen. There is a better recipe with higher yield and no hypogen usage, but that requires hypogen coils. The issue is that we are making 19 liters per second when our DTPF would otherwise be idling. To make new coils, we need 2 millions of it. That's around 40 hours. The other way we have for making hypogen is with fusion, but that requires dragon blood. We had obtained some of that stuff when we slew the Ender Dragon, but that won't be enough. Since we are also going to need a lot of that stuff in a couple of tiers, we shall look for a better source. But that's a story for the next episode. But, before greeting, we shall find a moral for this episode. And I think here the lesson is that the real lesson was within us all of the time. Bye bye.